Hey everybody, Tekking101 here. I got kind of a surprising video for you today. You know, I made that Twitter poll a few days ago asking what kind of video I should be making later this week, because I just couldn't decide. You know, there's just so many good characters to talk about in One Piece, I just couldn't decide. So I gave you the option to choose. I said you could either vote for Sabo or Koala. I was secretly hoping that Koala would win, but, you know, whatever. Okay, fine. I am the man of the people. I also said you could vote for an Eva video or a Dragon video, and I was massively surprised. You know, I thought, okay, I was hoping for Koala, but, you know, she's not super popular, so I was figuring Sabo. You guys wanted to have the Sabo video. But I thought Eva might come in a close second, but no! The response, the results of the poll were overwhelmingly Dragon. And I'm just looking at that, and I'm like, really? Are you sure you want a Dragon video? Like, okay, fine. But, well, okay, I'll go along with it. I love my fans. Consider this a treat for 300,000 subscribers. It's a weird thing to ask for, but here is my apparently long-awaited video on the Dragon from Punk Hazard. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I'll be straight up. When I first saw this thing, I shit my pants because there's a giant dragon in One Piece. They just got to the New World, you know, because Fishman Island doesn't really count. So they just got to the New World. They landed on Punk Hazard. The first thing they encounter, giant fire-breathing dragon straight out of, like, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, whatever the hell. I'm like, holy crap, where is this going to go? But then in the very next chapter, Oda surpasses our expectations when he has Zoro just decapitate the damn thing right there. And I shit my pants again. Come on, that was awesome! But beyond that, I mean, the dragon really didn't do much of anything else, you know, mostly because it's now a rotting corpse in the burning lands of Punk Hazard. But I guess it wouldn't have really been rotting very long because the heat from the volcanoes probably charred it to a nice crispy, you know, it's like a country fried dragon. You ever have that? Yeah, and then, but later on in Punk Hazard, we got other dragons. We got that smaller dragon that the team was chasing, and they wouldn't have been able to caught it if it wasn't for, Sanji and Nami's body grabbing, you know, getting the boob boost, the turbo boost with her boobs, you know, boobs have a variety of different skills in the One Piece world. And then, of course, there's Momonosuke, who can turn into a Chinese, you know, dragon with the devil fruit, the artificial one that was created by Vegapunk that was, deemed a failure. But we really haven't seen Momonosuke much, you know, ever since Zoe, so yeah. You know, I'm usually a guy that can turn a very, you know, sparse subject matter into at least a 20 or 30 minute long video, but I really have nothing else to add here. But I just felt like it would be, you know, I couldn't just let this go. I couldn't just let you guys vote for something and just never do it. I mean, I'm not that kind of asshole. So, yeah, there's my video on the Dragon of Punk Hazard from One Piece. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to subscribe and check out my channel. Tekking101 signing out! There's a storm a-brewing tonight. When the wind from the north blows in, I appear. It is I, the master of the revolutionaries. Batman, I mean Dragon! Oh, man. It's hard to do that. My voice was not meant to be all gruff and serious and Christian Bailey. Alright, my voice was meant to be squeaky nerd, and that's pretty much the one setting I have it on. I mean, I could deviate a little bit from that, but not very much. You know what's funny? The Funimation dub of One Piece, they just basically went Batman with Dragon's voice. If you haven't heard it yet, go and listen to Dragon's English dub in the Funimation. It is so Batman, and you know what? I'm not even mad about that. That works for the character. Right, but Dragon's character, you want me to explain it really quick? Because it's not going to be hard. Just take Luffy's character, except remove all of the childishness and the naivete, and give him complete understanding of political events in the world, and you know, what to do when you need to do it, and just, like, initiative and all that. Well, Luffy does have initiative, but you know what I mean. Like, take away all the silly aspects of Luffy, and just replace it with seriousness, and you have Dragon, okay? Because Dragon does not dick around, okay? Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Dragon is the guy that's probably going to take down the current standing of the world government. They're not planning on dismantling the entire government at once, and we'll get to that. They're planning on just taking out the Tenryubito, but they're the group that can actually get this done, okay? Out of all the other groups in One Piece, even the Straw Hats themselves, because yeah, the Straw Hats, their enemy is the world government, you know, just because they were pirates, the world government was their enemy, and then during Enies Lobby, when they burned down the flag and the whole incident with Robin, you know, the world government is in, you know, direct path of the Straw Hats. They're gonna have to deal with them at some point, but Luffy's not, like, going around like, we need to topple the world government, you know, that's not what his thing is. Dragon's goal is to go directly after the Tenryubito and at least change the way the world government is set up, okay, and he's the guy that can freaking do it if he's gonna do it, alright? And Dragon himself, is a character that really hasn't appeared that much in One Piece, but he's one of those characters that you're sitting there and every time he shows up, you're just like, oh my god, he's finally here! Is he gonna do something? No, he's not gonna do something, but, you know, he might. You know, the thing about Dragon is that Oda has come out, Oda is great at foreshadowing. Okay, he always has been. He's really good at setting things up, sometimes decades in advance, and then, you know, finally giving us a resolution that we are happy with, okay? He's really good at doing that kind of stuff. Now, back in the early days of One Piece, back in the East Blue arc, when Dragon first appeared, Dragon has been around since Logtown. In fact, Dragon even appeared in the very first opening of the One Piece anime, We Are. Very briefly, but there's a glimpse of him. This was back in, like, 1998. And we still know very little about him compared to when we found out about his existence then. We just thought he was the mysterious guy with the face tattoo, with the diamonds tattooed on his face. That was all we knew about him. All right. In fact, I wonder what the discussion was about that guy, because it's been like years now since we knew Dragon was Luffy's father. We found that out at the end of Enies Lobby. That was over 10 years ago. So I wasn't reading One Piece back then, but I was thinking, like, what about, like, in 2004, 2005? Like, what was the big discussion going on with Dragon? Were there theories that he was Luffy's dad? Like, I don't know, because I just wasn't around back then. I gotta check out the Wayback Machine. But way back during the East Blue arc, when Oda was getting started with One Piece, he originally stated that he only planned the series to last around 5 years. Obviously, that's not what happened, and it's rather humorous to think about that now, but that was the original goal that Oda kind of set for himself. Like, oh yeah, I could probably knock this out in about 5 years. But then, you know, he started coming up with more and more ideas for the story, and it just kept chugging along. That's why I'm kind of dubious whenever Oda comes out and says, you know, the story is 80% done, because, well, you know, you can always come up with new stuff to expand upon, right? But anyway, I can imagine that his plan for Dragon was this. He's like, okay, I'm going to introduce this mysterious guy named Dragon at Logtown right before they go into the Grand Line, just to kind of show the audience that there's this really strong, mysterious dude hanging around. Keep in mind, when Dragon first appeared, what did he do? Well, first thing, the obvious thing he did was he stopped Smoker. A character that, up to that point, was like, oh, he's a Logia, but we didn't know what a Logia was. He could turn into smoke. Luffy couldn't punch him, and then all of a sudden, this weird cloak dude just shows up and just grabs his staff thing and is just like, you can't stop, you know, you can't stop him. He's a pirate, whatever. And then he sends Luffy on his way. But indirectly, what he did was that he caused the lightning strike that saved Luffy from being decapitated by Buggy, and he also used a gust of wind to get Luffy out of Logtown back to the docks so he could, you know, meet up with the Straw Hats and get the hell out of there. Okay, and that was like because the big storm just blew in all of a sudden in Logtown. So it was pretty obvious that this mysterious figure had something to do with it, but we didn't really know much about him at that point. I think that Oda planned on Dragon being very relevant only during the final arc of One Piece, like during the end game. That's when we're gonna get to see a lot of Dragon. That's when we're gonna see Dragon in a straight up fight, show off his devil fruit, what he's capable of, all that stuff, okay? And that might still be the plan to this day. It's just that it kept getting pushed back further and further as One Piece continued onward. It didn't just last 5 years. It lasted 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, probably 25 years, you know, so it's just like, oh yeah, I have plans for Dragon, but it's not until the very end of the story, and the end of the story just keeps getting pushed back further and further, so yeah, that's the deal with Dragon in terms of, like, where he's been and what he's going to do in the story. I highly doubt there's ever going to be an arc, you know, before we start getting into the endgame stuff in One Piece. I highly doubt, like in Wano, I don't think Dragon's gonna, like, show up at Wano by himself and fight against a Calamity or Kaido. I mean, that'd be awesome if that happened. It's just, I don't think that's the story that Oda really wants to tell with Dragon's character, okay? So, more than anything, we just find out stuff about him, like a breadcrumb trail of clues throughout the story without him really doing much of anything significant, okay? So, after Enies Lobby, well, first thing is, during the end of Drum Island, I think that's when we finally found out his name. That's when we had that flashback of Reverie when Vivi was like 10 years old, and that was all about Wapol, you know, meeting Vivi and slapping her upside the face, and that's where we find out her backstory. But we also have a brief scene with one of the kings of, I think the Eleusia Kingdom, named Thalassa Lucas, and he held up this portrait, this picture of a dragon, and he's like, this man right here is Dragon, and he is a revolutionary, and he is the most wanted man in the world. And so we saw that, and we're like, oh, okay, that was the guy that was at Logtown. He's the same dude. That's crazy. Now, does Dragon actually, in fact, have a bounty? I would say he most certainly does. I think it would make more sense for him to have one than a Yonko. And you might think, well, of course Yonko have bounty. Like, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I'm simply saying that if a Yonko had a bounty, what would be the point of it? Because it would be so big that, like, only the heaviest hitters in the entire One Piece world would be able to contend with them, you know? Like, here is, you know, Big Mom, and her bounty is 20 billion. I'm like, great, it's 20 billion. There's no random bounty hunter in the world that would be able to just randomly collect that unless there's some really badass bounty hunter hanging out in the new world that we just never heard of. So I would say, and we already know Sabo has a bounty, and his is relatively low. Sabo's bounty is only like 600-something million, and I know a lot of people were like, oh, that's kind of low. But then Dragon, most wanted man in the world, let's just take that title literally. It's going to at least be higher than 1.5 billion, which is Luffy's bounty, which is currently the highest known in the entire story. Isn't that crazy to say? Yeah, the highest bounty known in the story is once again Luffy. Okay, but maybe it might not be taken literally. It might just be like, you know, his name is infamous all over the world. Everybody knows about him. Doesn't matter where you are. You could be living in this podunk, you know, village out in the middle of the South Blue or whatever, but you've heard about Dragon. The Marines are trying to go after him. The world government threw him that title because he's the leader of the Revolutionary Army trying to dethrone the freaking Tenryubito, so of course they would give him that title. Right, but then we had, after Enies Lobby, you know, like the post-Enies Lobby arc when they go back to Water 7 and Garp shows up and meets Luffy. That's when we get the big exposition dump that Dragon, his full name is Monkey D. Dragon, and then you're like, wait a second, he's related to Luffy? Is he like his uncle? No, he's his father! I'm like, oh my god, and Garp's son by extension. Like, holy shit! This is so cool! You know? And that's pretty much the last big piece of exposition we've really gotten from Dragon, and like I said, that was over a decade ago. That was back in, like, I know Brook joined up with the crew in 2008, and that was at the end of Thriller Bark, so we post Enies Lobby, we're talking like 2006 we probably found that out, okay? And then we get a brief view of where Dragon is right now in the world, like at the end of Enies Lobby. We cut over to Baltigo, which is the home base of the Revolutionary Army, at least it used to be, and we see this Dragon guy, and suffice it to say, he is not similar to Garp or Luffy. It seems like the goofiness skipped a generation, okay? Because Luffy, we all know, is very, very easygoing, very lighthearted, kind of a goofball. You know, he has sort of an attention span problem, and Garp is not much better. Garp is, you know, he's a marine hero and everything. He's super strong, but he has like that narcolepsy problem where he just oh, no, I'm sorry, just passes out on the spot there. He has the addiction to donuts and everything, so they're pretty silly, and you can see a family resemblance. Then we get to Dragon, who is this really serious, you know, hooded figure, basically kind of like Batman. You know, I can't imagine his voice as anything else now, and he's in Baltigo, and he's, like, looking at Luffy's new Wanted poster, the 300 million one, and he's just like, what is this? And he's like, "Oh, sir, yeah, those are the new, those are the Straw Hat Pirates. They got some new bounties. They're pretty impressive." And he's like, "I'm gonna go get some air." And he walks out onto the, the balcony area of Baltigo, and he's just staring off into the sunset. And we get to see him in his full view for the first time in the series, and we get his introduction box, most wanted man in the world, Monkey D. Dragon, father of Luffy. And he just has this little monologue there, this little, soliloquy he does, where he's just like, "Luffy, our paths will cross soon, my son. Just keep on going as you are, and you will be fine," and that's it. And we're sitting there, and we're like, "Oh, okay, a little bit of an atmosphere change here, okay? Like, holy crap." It would be really funny if we found out Dragon's past, and I'm sure we're definitely going to get to see Dragon's past, because we also have to... If Oda's gonna go to show us Luffy's father, we're gonna find out about his mother. I mean, that just has to happen, okay? I mean, like, you could say Luffy's mother is currently dead, and I made a video about her, and that's fine if she is dead right now, but we definitely have to find out, like, who she is. That would be like in Naruto. We find out Naruto's dad is Minato. I'm like, awesome. What about his mom? She's not important. We never found out about her. So we're definitely going to find out at least the story regarding Dragon and Luffy's mom. Right, and I would say Dragon's wife, but you never know. I don't think I don't think Roger and Rouge were ever officially married. I think that they were just lovers, and then they met, and then they, I'm the Pirate King, Rouge. Yeah, check out this mustache. And what the hell, man? Okay, well, you have that mental image in your head now. Roger going down on Rouge. Okay, so, yeah, they weren't, I don't think, officially married or anything. I don't even think they did, like, a Rhaegar Targaryen, Lysana Stark thing, and they got married off, without anyone knowing. I think they literally just were lovers, and, she got pregnant with Roger's child, which was Ace, right? Okay, fine. So it's possible that Dragon might not have been married to Luffy's mom, but they were just lovers, and you might think that Luffy's mom would have to be a revolutionary by that extension. Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be the case. I think it's implied that Dragon did grow up in the East, because that little scene that he had with Ivankov when they were staring off on Baltigo, and Ivankov mentions, "Dragon, you always seem to stare off in the same direction towards East, family instincts homing in on your, forgotten homeland or whatever." And Dragon also very seriously, like, "Why don't you just shut the hell up, Ivankov?" So that's like, it's implied that he's from the East, so he might have grown up in the Goa Kingdom. In fact, I think it was straight up stated he did grow up in the Goa Kingdom. He met some woman there, and Luffy, okay, la da 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 da, baby Luffy, and then Dragon decided to screw off and go and start the Revolutionary Army. And it could have been it would have had to been a situation where Luffy's mom would have had to either have disappeared or died relatively early. Now keep in mind, there is a big swath of Luffy's life that we don't know about. Swath being a word that I just kind of invented, meaning an extension of time, because the earliest that we know about Luffy's past, I think, that we've actually seen, is when he was age 7. And that's when he met Shanks, and that's when he gave himself the scar on his body. And by the way, every member of the monkey family so far that we know of all have a distinctive marking on the left side of their face. So Luffy has that scar he gave himself to prove that he's a real man to Shanks. Garp has a crescent moon scar thing over his left eye, which he had even back in his early days when he first joined the Marines. He had that. And then Dragon has the face tattoo. Now, Dragon didn't always have the face tattoo. We see a flashback during Roger's execution 24 years ago. He didn't have it then, so he must have got it afterwards at some point. But that's an interesting little thing. And I bet there's also going to be a story behind this, as well as Garp's tattoo, because that seems like too much of a coincidence that Oda would draw each member of the monkey family with a unique scar or facial marking on the left side of their face specifically. So I think we're going to find out about the origin of how Garp got that crescent scar, and also the origin of what maybe Dragon's markings mean something and we just don't know about it yet, or something of that nature, right? So we know about Luffy when he's age 7, and we've heard about a few things when earlier than that, when Garp was training him to become a Marine, and Garp took him and like threw him in the jungle for like a week or a month or whatever the hell it was. I think that stuff happened earlier in his life. But when it comes to like Luffy as an infant, Luffy as a toddler, I don't think we've seen anything related to that yet. We haven't seen like baby Luffy or anything being cradled in his mother's arms or something like that. So we got that with Ace and with Rouge. Rouge, but we haven't gotten it with Luffy, so there's definitely enough space in there for Oda to include another flashback involving how Dragon met Luffy's mom, and the birth of Luffy, and we could see Luffy as a child. That definitely can still happen in the story, and I definitely think that Oda has that planned, because it's, of course, the main character. I kind of want to find out every little detail about Luffy from birth until currently where we are in the story. We've pretty much taken out care of everything involving his childhood and his teenage years, but I want to see, his actual birth. What were the circumstances behind that? And also, just like we don't know a lot about Luffy's, really early days, we don't know about Dragon's early days, or his past really at all. The only thing we got to go on there is that 8 years ago, when Thalassa Lucas was talking about him, he was already regarded as the world's most wanted man, and he was already heading up the Revolutionary Army 8 years ago, when Luffy was only 11, and we also knew that he was present during Goldie Roger's execution 24 years ago, but he didn't have the face tattoo back then. He might not have been a member of the Revolutionaries then, or if he was just a regular member. Who knows? We don't know about his past with Garp. Garp is apparently is Dragon's father. So how did that go down? I like to think that Garp, and I've mentioned this before, but I like to think that Garp, he was trying to raise Dragon to become a Marine, maybe in a similar way that he tried with Luffy and Ace. And Dragon decided, no, I'm going to instead become a revolutionary. Or there's another theory that Dragon did actually become a straight-up Marine, but he decided to change over, and he was like, oh, I see what the evils of the world government truly are, and he left the Marines, and he became a revolutionary. All of this is likely, is possible, because we just don't know a lot about his history in his early days, right? Even involving Luffy, we know Dragon left at a certain point in Luffy's past, and he was basically in the care of Garp, and then Garp just kind of chucked him into Fuchsia Village, and then eventually under Dadan's care. But, who knows? Dragon could have got together with his wife or his lover, and they had Luffy together, and they could have maybe been a happy family for a few years. Who knows? Up until Luffy was maybe 2 or 3 years old, maybe they were a happy family, and then something happened with the world government, and maybe that's when Luffy's mom died or something, and then Dragon, left, Luffy in Garp's care, and Garp is like, damn it, why do I have to keep taking care of all these damn kids? And then Dragon went off to become the head of the Revolutionary Army. Who knows? It's all possible. I imagine Garp at least has a lot of regret about that. There's a lot of stuff weighing heavily on Garp's shoulders. Imagine that. Your son becomes the head of the Revolutionary Army, and if that wasn't bad enough, your grandson, both of them, I know Ace is not, biologically Garp's grandson, but he considered him a grandson in any case. They both become notorious pirates. One of them ends up getting killed by a member of the Marines that you're part of, and then the other one is now regarded as the 5th Yonko. So this must be very intense for Garp, just he always plays it up really happy, just chilling out with Sengoku, eating rice crackers, but when night comes and he's just sitting around in his house, just staring out the window, he's like, oh, jeez. Oh, God. Okay, but I want to see the past with them. I want to see what the dynamic was between Garp and Dragon, because we've just never seen that. We've seen the dynamic between Garp and Luffy and Garp and Ace, but we've never seen how Garp and Dragon interact. We've never seen them together, Some people have stated that actually, because there's really no similarities that much between Garp and Dragon and, or Luffy and Dragon, because there's much more of a similarity between Luffy and Garp, other than the fact they have the same name, Monkey D. People have said, well, maybe Garp is Luffy's mother's dad. Okay, and then Dragon is not related to him, but that can't be the case, because they all have the same name, so it's very clear that Garp is Dragon's father. We just really haven't found out about what their past was, or their dynamic is, or anything like that. Who knows, right? Do they ever talk anymore? Probably not, but that's like an estranged son kind of thing, and I hope it's handled rather well in the story. I think it could be. Oh, and another thing to clarify about Luffy's parents, because someone might inevitably bring up this SBS, question that was posed in volume 44. So somebody asked about Luffy's parents, and they were like, I'm sure this isn't the first time this happened, I'm sure it's happened for years, but finally Oda decided to answer it. He's like, do you ever plan on drawing Luffy's parents? And there's been a few different kind of translations to this, okay? And it's one of those situations where it's only a few different words that are changed, but they're very important words. So in this one variation here, it's implied that Oda is going to draw both of Luffy's parents in the next volume. The next volume being the one where Dragon is properly introduced at the end of Enies Lobby. However, in the official translation, it's implied that it's actually just, it's not necessarily going to be both of Luffy's parents, just one of his parents, which is Dragon. So I think that's what Oda was getting at there. He's just like, oh, Luffy's parents? Well, in the next volume, you're going to be happy because he draws Dragon. So that made people think, like, Luffy's mom, is she in the background? Who is it? Is that guy or that girl? Because later on, we find out Ivankov is a member of the Revolutionary Army, and with Ivankov's power, gender's not really, it could be that dude with an afro. We don't know. It could be Crocodile. Crocodile is not Luffy's mom. I made a whole video about that. I can't even begin to tell you the problems with that. But yeah. So just to clarify, I brought that up in the Luffy mom video, but just to bring it up again, yeah, I'm pretty sure that when he said that in the SBS, he was just referring to Dragon. I honestly think Luffy's mom is dead, if you just want my opinion out of the gate, but she could be in hiding, but she's not necessarily a part of the Revolutionary Army. As for the way Luffy views this whole thing, like I said, Luffy's a pretty carefree dude, so he doesn't really care. Luffy's not the kind of guy that's gonna lie awake at night staring at the roof of the sunny or up at the stars, and he's gonna be like, I wonder what my dad is like. That's not the kind of guy Luffy is. Even when Garp told him, your father is Monkey D. Dragon. He's a revolutionary. Luffy's just like, oh. Okay. Like, he didn't really care. Even when he finally saw the face of Dragon, he was a little shocked because he's never seen the face of his dad before. He was never even really curious, but when they were sailing to Totland and they saw the paper, I'm just gonna throw up images of, Carrot kind of getting snuggly, chewy with Luffy, but he's looking at the paper and he's like, ah! SAS me, papa! All I could find there was a Spanish, capture of the screen, but still, like, SAS me, papa? Like, that's my dad, really? He was shocked because he's never seen him before, and the way that Dragon looks, it doesn't resemble Luffy really at all, except for the fact they have, the shaggy black hair, and that's it. But beyond that, he was just like, whatever, I'm not really all that curious about him or anything. I've never really been sitting around thinking about him, because he's just never been really a part of my life. So that's the kind of Luffy is, and Dragon's probably the same way. Dragon is just like, Luffy, you're out there doing your thing. At Logtown, he said to Smoker, he's like, he's a pirate, huh? Well, that's all right. I think the only thing that would piss Dragon off is if Luffy became, like, a member of the Marines or a member of the world government. When it comes to revolutionaries and pirates, there's really not that much of a difference. They're both outlaws in the eyes of the world government, essentially. The only difference is, while pirates are just kind of focused on going around and, just doing whatever the hell they want, the revolutionaries are just a little bit more focused on their goal directly to take down the Tenryubito. And reshape the world government. And let's get into that. So their goal is not to collapse the entire government, because that's not going to be good for anybody, all right? That's not going to be good for the revolutionaries or the pirates or the Marines or the world at large, all right? Because imagine, the government that you're in right now, if you're living in any kind of stable country, if you're living in the United States or in the UK or France or Germany, imagine if tomorrow your entire government, the entire infrastructure just collapsed. Gone. Overnight. What do you think's gonna happen? Do you think the people are gonna be like, we rejoice now! This is a whole new utopia for this new land! It's gonna be freaking anarchy, absolute chaos, dogs and cats living together, for God's sake. There's gonna be people going around chucking bricks through buildings, shit is starting shit on fire, all of the money is gone, like, oh, who's gonna pay us? I don't know, that guy, I'm not paying you, that guy paid me to pay you, well, that guy paid me to pay you guys. It would be absolute devastation. Like, whatever country that would be, I can imagine all the other countries would just be like, all right, we're not getting close to you, blocking off, because now that country's going to get turned into like a fourth world hellhole from here on out. You know, no government, no infrastructure. Give it a few years and maybe like some like, you know, drug cartel might take over. Who knows? But you know what I mean? That would be horrible. Horrible if that were to happen. You know, so kind of the same thing in the One Piece world. You can't just have the world government collapse overnight. Not going to be a good thing for the world. So rather what they're going to try to do, though, is at least keep the general infrastructure, but they have to change who's at the top. So that means their targets are the Tenryubito, and by extension of that, the Gorosei, and probably Im-sama. Because the Tenryubito are the ones that primarily fund the world government with their vast wealth. And we all know how horrible the Tenryubito are. They're like these slave trading, completely apathetic people. They don't care anything about the citizens of the world they're living in. They just care about their immaculate, abject luxury. That's all they care about. So get rid of them. And probably get rid of the Gorosei and Im-sama, because they're going along with this too. Im-sama being like the true ruler. Im-sama himself is probably a Tenryubito. I think it's fairly obvious to assume that he's like the ruler of all the Tenryubito. But get rid of all those guys and then replace them with people that can actually are fair and just. I'm not exactly sure what the plan of the Revolutionary Army is to do with that, because they're at Reverie right now. Their plan is to declare war on the Tenryubito while at Reverie. But let's say they win. Let's say it's the end game of One Piece, and Dragon and Sabo and Ivankov, they're launching one big attack on the Tenryubito at Marijois, and they manage to succeed. They manage to take out all the Tenryubito and Im-sama and the Gorosei, and they win. And they win. And the Revolutionary Army, they get to wave their flag at the top of the Castle of Pangaea at Marijois, like, we won! The tyranny of the Tenryubito is no more! Okay, what happens then? Do the revolutionaries take over? Is the plan for Dragon to become the new ruler? Or, like, Sabo and Ivankov to rule over the world? I don't know exactly what their plan is. Another idea, another plan could be like, let's get rid of all the Tenryubito, including Im-sama, so let's just include him in there. But let's keep Gorosei. Let's keep the Gorosei around. And let's, like, you know, okay, we're gonna keep the basic layout of how this structure worked, but all of the things like all of the crazy giant castles and gold-plated toilets and the slave trade, we're gonna get rid of all of that. You know, we're gonna get all of that, and we're gonna use this money to now fund, like, we're gonna take all the vast rich, because imagine all the Tenryubito are gone. They still have the vaults of all of their gold. You know, take that gold and distribute it to the people. Something like that. Although I don't really see you keeping the Gorosei around, because they're so closely tied to the wills of Im-sama. You're probably going to have to get rid of them too. But yeah, whatever they're planning, Dragon is the guy to get it done. Alright, because like I said, Dragon don't dick around. Alright, he's gonna do this shit, alright? And they're gonna do it the right way, too. They're not just gonna charge into the place and burn it down, because if that was the situation, Sabo and Morley and you know, all the other commanders of the Revolutionary Army, like Karasu, they could do that stuff right now, because they're already in the city. If they really wanted to, they could just pop out from their little hidey hole and they just firebomb the entire city of Marijois and just be like, ha, we're the revolutionaries, bitch, peace out! You know, but they're not doing that, so I'm imagining their plan is maybe a little bit more subtle cloak and dagger kind of stuff on how to declare war against the Tenryubito. Maybe they're planning on, you know, they're going to try to take back Kuma, who is property of the world government. That might cue it up already, but also they might plan on, like, kidnapping one of the Tenryubito or something. I don't exactly know what they're planning, but it's like a multifaceted, several-stage plan that Dragon has here. And then during the final, like, arcs of One Piece, during the climax of all this, and I don't know if that point, even if the Straw Hats are going to be involved, because keep in mind, like, the Red Line in Marijois is here, and this is the New World. Like, the Straw Hats are, like, here. You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of like, I don't know if the Straw Hats are halfway through the New World yet, they might be, but they're a fair distance into the New World, and this final battle with the Revolutionaries, like, their plot thread, that's probably going to take place in Marijois. I would assume it would. So we're talking about this epic attack on that city. The Straw Hats might not even be there for that, but I'd be fine with it because we finally get to see the closure of this. Now, as for Dragon's Devil Fruit power, this is a subject of debate for a long time now, exactly what it is. We know in general what it can do, but Like, I like to call it the Storm fruit. Just, he can control storms just in general, like Storm from X-Men. Other people consider it very directly like a specific aspect of the weather, which is wind, because the idea goes, if you can control the wind, then by extension you can sort of control storms as well, because if you can control the wind, you can move the clouds where they need to be and have a storm, or take like I'm gonna take, like, use my wind powers, take a warm front and a cold front and slam them together, and I can make a storm. But the reason why I consider it just general control of all aspects of storms is because that lightning bolt that saved Luffy at Logtown, that was some cinematic timing right there. That was like right at the... It was like Luffy had that blade a millimeter away from his neck before that lightning struck. Okay? That was absolute perfect timing, right? And so I can't see it any other way than Dragon having complete manipulation. It can't be the Goro Goro no Mi, because that's Eneru's thing. He already has the lightning fruit. So I think it's just, in general, it's the Storm fruit. Some people have considered it to be a mythical zone, because, you know, like some, like, rain god or weather god. I would say Poseidon, but that's already Shirahoshi. That's already an ancient weapon. But then again, you know, you have Sengoku. Sengoku can literally turn into the Buddha. Okay, so if Sengoku, if the Buddha is a devil fruit, then maybe you could make Poseidon an actual character, like a devil fruit mythical zone, but maybe not necessarily Poseidon. There's a bunch of other weather gods you could mess with in history, but you know what I'm saying, right? It might be something like that. I don't think it's a Logia, really, at all. Although, okay, here's another thing, okay? Because whenever Logias are awakened, it's implied that they're able to manipulate the weather, because you'd figure that Aokiji and Akainu are both awakened, because they're some of the strongest Logia users in the entire story. And at Punk Hazard, when they were fighting, they permanently changed the layout of that island, the whole thing. Years after their battle, that island will still be half volcanic devastation, like basically hell, and the frozen Arctic wasteland because of their fight there. So I like to think Logias can affect the weather, so perhaps if Dragon is a Logia, and he is awakened, then what we were seeing every time he used it, maybe let's just say he is the power of the wind fruit, and he can just turn into wind. We've just never seen him do it yet, because we've never seen him in a fight. We've never really seen him having a reason to do it, right? The only time he was really in a direct confrontation was with Smoker. And at that point, you don't even really need to, you know, you don't need to straight out fight Smoker. You could just, like, hockey up your arm, or just grab him, or I think just grabbed his staff or whatever. Didn't really need to fight him. So in that situation, he could have the ability to turn into wind, but then when awakened, he can manipulate the weather just in general. So that's another way of looking at it. So if anything, I think he was going to be a Paramecia or an awakened wind Logia that has the ability to just manipulate storms with his awakened status. Okay, so let's just go with that, I guess. And every time that Dragon shows up, every time when he showed up at the Goa Kingdom, you know, back during Luffy's flashback with Sabo and Ace and everything, the giant storm came out of nowhere, and the rain extinguished the fire on Grey Terminal, and he opened up that big, like, he separated the flames to allow people to get through to, you know, save all the people at Grey Terminal and everything, when he rescued Sabo. So, yeah, it's heavily implied he can either manipulate storms in general, or at the bare minimum, just the wind. So there we go. Also, I would include Armament Hockey, Observation, and Conquerors, because he is the ruler of the Revolutionary Army. Yeah, and considering Luffy's had Conquerors, Ace had Conquerors, Garp probably has Conquerors, I would assume Dragon would have it as well. Well, we get to see a lot more of him. That's a good thing. Still not really doing anything super relevant, but we get to see him around more. We even get to see him in cover pages now. Like in this one cover page where they're looking at the news about Luffy, and Dragon has this weird expression on his face, so it's making him a little bit less serious, you know? I like that kind of stuff. And, you know, pretty much at the end of every arc, we get at least some update on the Revolutionaries, now that we know Sabo is part of that. So whenever we learn about Sabo, we're also going to see Luffy and, you know, check into what's going on with Dragon. After the events of Dressrosa, Koala brought him those reports from what she found in the underground shipping port at Dressrosa, and Dragon's like, oh, okay, whatever. Gather the Revolutionary Army commanders, and then in the next section we get to see them, and also we see Dragon there, and he's like, are you done finalizing these reports, Sabo? Because we're declaring war! It's declaring war day! And, okay, so we get to see him more, that's nice. Oda's adding a little bit more personality to him, getting to find out a little bit more about the guy, and how his dynamic with Sabo and Koala and Ivankov and all the other revolutionaries work, so, okay, but we've yet to really see him, like, substantially do anything like, I'm gonna get into a fight, or I'm gonna show off my powers in a big way, or, you know, anything like that, or I'm gonna go meet with, like what Shanks did. Like, Shanks went to go meet with the Gorosei. We haven't really seen him do anything like that, but it's coming. I guarantee you it's coming. I think we're going to get at least a few big scenes with Dragon before we really kick off the big final, you know, climax of this whole plot thread. But until then, he's there and he's waiting. Right, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about Dragon. Oh, except for the, Robin. I wanted to talk about that, because Robin definitely has met Dragon. Like, there's no way she hasn't, okay? That was the whole reason they took her to Baltigo. Like, Dragon really wants to meet you. So, Robin has met Dragon. It's just that maybe Dragon told her, don't talk about any of this stuff with Luffy, or don't bring it up to anyone. And Robin is smart. She's gonna be like, oh yeah, matter of security and everything, I won't say anything. But Robin has definitely met him. There might be a moment when, you know, Luffy and Dragon do have a reunion. Now, it's not going to be a real tearful reunion. It's not going to be like, father, son, and they start hugging and everything. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a more serious meeting than anything. I could see them all sitting down. You know, there's Robin and the Straw Hats and Luffy and Dragon sitting down and like, Luffy, you've gotten bigger, you know, and like, whatever, okay, alright, whatever, enough with the pleasantries. Anyway, let me tell you something important, okay? We're planning on taking out the Tenryubito. I need your help, you know, something like that. Like, Dragon's gonna need to bring Luffy on to help out with a plan, or maybe Dragon's gonna talk about his mother or something. I don't know. The reunion's probably gonna happen. It might be a reunion between Garp, Dragon, and Luffy. I don't know how that three-ring circus could come together, but it could, very likely. And this stuff, keep in mind, isn't going to be for a while, I mean, near the end of One Piece, but I'm waiting for that reunion. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Alright, well anyway, thanks for watching this video, thanks for voting. I'm going to be doing videos. I think I'm just going to do a video series really quick about the other members of the Revolutionary. I'm going to do Sabos and Koalas and Ivankovs. Probably start off with Koalas, but I'm gonna do all the four, you know, major members of the Revolutionary Army, all the ones that we know about. I can't really make individual videos about the commanders yet, because we don't really know much about them. Oh, I could make a hack video, because I know you guys are waiting on that hack video, but, okay. But I know Sabo, Koala, and Ivankov for sure. Videos coming down the pipeline. So, thanks for watching. Leave your opinions on Dragon below. What do you think his devil fruit is? What do you think his master plan is to, you know, take over the world government, if he's going to be the head of it, or if there's going to be, like, another group he's going to put in charge of it, or he's just going to let the world decide? I don't know how this is going to go down. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101, signing out. I'm Dragon Batman.